My lungs were burning. My backpack felt like it weighed 100 pounds, water bottles banging against my back with every step. Behind me, I could hear footsteps closing in. I wasn't running from the police. I wasn't running from a stranger. I was running from another 11-year-old kid, and somehow, that felt scarier. By the end of that summer, I'd learned more about money than any classroom ever taught me. But it didn't start with a lesson. It started with a cooler, $6, and a heatwave that refused to quit. This is that story. Let's go back to the beginning. It was the kind of summer where the air felt thick before 9 in the morning. My neighborhood wasn't rich. Most families were stretched thin, mine included. It was just me and my mom, and money was always tight, not, "We're starving." Tight, but, "Think twice before you ask for anything." Tight. The corner store on our block was the only place to grab a cold drink, and the owner knew it. Prices there were always a little higher than they should have been. People grumbled about it, but what choice did they have? One afternoon, I watched a group of kids walk past my house, sweating, complaining. I asked where they were headed. "Gas station," one of them said. "Corner store is out of cold water again." The gas station was 15 minutes away. On foot. In that heat. And that's when something clicked in my head, something I didn't have a name for yet, but I understood it instantly. People needed something right now, and nobody close by was giving it to them. I went home, dug through the garage, and found an old cooler covered in dust. I had no real plan. I just had a feeling. I wanted new shoes that summer. Mine had a hole starting in the sole, and I knew better than to ask my mom. She had enough on her plate. If I wanted them, I'd have to get them myself. So I filled that cooler with ice, grabbed a few water bottles from our fridge, and walked outside. The first day, I sold out in under an hour. I'd bought a few waters for cheap and sold them for double. People didn't even blink at the price. They were just relieved to see cold water without walking 15 minutes for it. I remember counting the coins and crumpled bills in my hand and feeling something I'd never felt before. Not just excitement. Pride. The next day, I scaled up. Bought more bottles, more ice. But something had changed. The corner store had restocked. Suddenly my only cold water on the block advantage wasn't so special anymore. Sales slowed down. I had to think. I noticed something. People still bought from me even when the store had water, as long as I was closer to where they were hanging out, closer to the basketball court, closer to the bus stop. Location mattered. Timing mattered. So I started moving. I'd post up wherever the heat was hitting people the hardest, wherever they were stuck waiting around with nowhere cold to go. I added snacks to the cooler too, chips, candy, anything I could grab cheap and flip for a little more. Some days, I even tested raising my prices when the heat got brutal. I figured people would complain or just stop buying. They didn't. When it was hot enough, people paid whatever I asked. They needed it too badly to argue. I didn't have a word for that yet. I just thought, that's interesting. But word travels fast on a block like mine. And it wasn't long before I had competition. 2 streets over, there was an older kid, maybe 13, already taller than most adults I knew, running the same kind of hustle. Cooler, snacks, the whole setup. And he was not happy that I'd started creeping into his territory. It started small. A warning here, a dirty look there. Then it got worse. I came back to my spot one afternoon and found my cooler tipped over, ice melting into the pavement, bottles scattered everywhere. He'd also been telling people I was watering down my drinks, scaring customers off before they even reached me. I was angry. But I wasn't about to quit. I changed my hours, came out earlier before he set up. I changed my spot, found new corners he hadn't claimed. For a while, I even dropped my prices lower than his, just to pull customers back over to me, even if it meant smaller profit for a bit. It worked, but it also made him angrier. And one afternoon, that anger finally caught up to me. I was walking through what he considered his territory, cooler on my back, when I heard him call out behind me. I didn't even turn around. I just ran. That's the chase you saw at the start of this video. My lungs burning, bottles banging against my back, his footsteps closing the distance behind me. I cut through an alley, hoping to lose him, but he was faster. He caught up right as I reached a dead end, and in the scramble, my cooler tipped over. Bottles rolled everywhere. I spilled across the concrete. Every bit of stock I had, gone in seconds. I turned around, completely out of breath, with nothing left to sell and nowhere left to run. He stood there, chest heaving just as hard as mine, staring at me. I didn't know what was about to happen. I thought I was about to get jumped over $6 worth of water bottles. What actually happened next, I never saw coming. For a second, neither of us said anything. He wasn't swinging. He wasn't even really angry anymore, just breathing hard, frustrated, almost tired. And that's when I realized something. He wasn't some villain chasing me down for fun. He was a kid too, under pressure, probably needing that money just as badly as I did, maybe for reasons I didn't even know about. He wasn't my enemy. He was basically looking at a mirror of himself. We ended up just talking. Right there in that alley, surrounded by spilled water and melting ice. He admitted something that surprised me. He'd been losing customers because my drinks were colder, my prices better timed. I admitted I'd been struggling too, with him controlling more corners than me. Then it hit me. We were fighting over the same 6 blocks, splitting one set of customers between us, when there were entire streets neither of us had bothered to cover. There was more demand out there than either of us alone could reach. So we tried something neither of us fully trusted at first. We split up the territory. Agreed on similar pricing, so we weren't racing each other to the bottom just to steal customers. It felt strange, working with the guy who just chased me down an alley days before. But it worked better than either of us expected. When I ran low on stock, he had extra to sell me at a fair price instead of leaving me empty-handed. When his ice melted faster on his end of the neighborhood, I'd cover him. Between the two of us, we were reaching way more people than either of us could alone. Then came the real test. There was a block party coming up that weekend, the kind of event where half the neighborhood shows up, and the heat that day was supposed to be brutal. It was the kind of opportunity either of us could have used to go solo and take it all for ourselves. I'm not going to pretend I wasn't tempted. For a second, I thought about cutting him out completely and keeping the whole block party to myself. But I didn't. Instead, I went to him and said we should run the party together, split the territory inside the event just like we had outside of it. That day, the demand was bigger than anything either of us had seen all summer. People were lined up. Coolers running dry every 20 minutes. If I'd gone alone, I would have sold out in an hour and missed out on everything after that. Together, we kept the supply going the entire afternoon. By the end of it, we both made more money than either of us had projected solo, by a lot. We sat on the curb afterward, exhausted, pockets actually full for once, and just looked at each other and laughed. Two kids who'd been chasing each other down an alley days earlier, now business partners. Looking back now, that whole summer was basically an economics class. I just didn't know it at the time. When something's in short supply and people want it badly enough, they'll pay more for it. That's supply and demand, even if back then I just called it. They'll pay anyway when it's this hot. But the bigger lesson came later, the day I almost got jumped over a cooler of water. Two competitors fighting over the same small piece of the pie will usually end up hurting both of them. But when you stop fighting over the same ground and find the gaps nobody else is filling, there's often enough out there for everybody to win. That's not just true for a couple of kids selling water on a hot afternoon. It's true for businesses. It's true for entire economies. Nobody has to lose for someone else to win. Sometimes the biggest opportunity is the one you're not even fighting over yet. That money I made that summer went toward those shoes I wanted, with a little left over for my mom, just because I wanted to. But what I really walked away with wasn't the money. It was the lesson. Funny thing is, the kid I almost got jumped by ended up teaching me more about money than any teacher ever did. Sometimes, the best deal isn't about beating the competition. Sometimes it's realizing you never needed to fight them in the first place. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more lessons hidden inside stories just like this one. And let me know in the comments, have you ever turned a rival into a partner?